So, as Terrance said, one of the greatest titles for a self-help book is Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory. And one of the reasons why we titled our meeting today Let Them and Leave Them is to add that last part, which is we're going to be going over lessons from multiple books, including the games that people play, the one that we published and produced How to Choose a Man, a Criminologist's Guide, and Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory. And the basic understanding of today's and the basic aim of today's event is to help us understand how to let people make their own decisions and how that's going to help us. And when it's time to leave the situation or leave our attachment to things that don't serve us. And we're going to be tying key points from all these books, including our own, into today's event. So if you weren't here from the beginning and you're just coming in now, as I see people are coming in now, we're going to reintroduce ourselves. My name is Ryan, and I'm a relationship engineer. And what I love doing is helping people understand exactly how to get what they want and they deserve out of life and their relationships. And I come at it from a unique but different perspective from Terrance. So I love working with him because we complement each other. But tell him a little bit about yourself, Terrance.
I'm Terrance. I'm a criminal profiler. I spend most of my time looking at the signs that somebody's a problematic person and the signs that somebody is good and they're supposed to be in our life and can help our peace. And it's something as simple as those two concepts can save us thousands and thousands of dollars in therapy, counseling, coaching, and all that other stuff. So a lot of times, the most important thing is to make sure we bring the right people in our life and not try to change people who are the wrong type of person. I'm a little under the weather, so Ryan's going to do the majority of the talking today. I'm still going to be hopping in and try to do the best I can, but I'm just a little under the weather, so that's why it's good to have Ryan here who has all the energy in the world. So let's get to
Glad to be here, man. But the nice thing about you having a professional criminology background is that when we're talking about the games people play, hopefully a lot of us in our lives see this on the minor end, but you have experience with people taking this somewhat to the extreme,
absolutely.
don't you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So almost never when a criminal's being arrested do they come out and say, "Hey, they were the bad guy." It almost
Hmm.
never happens. There's always a game being played. There's usually responsibility being shifted. There's a larger agenda at play. So I'm so used to it. But this is the concept that we're talking about with now our 25th or 26th event, which is the concept of relationship profiling. And what we want to do is take a deep breath and honestly look at the quality of the relationships we have in our life because a lot of times we focus on the relationships that we might have with the environment, social media, haters on the internet. But what about the quality of the friends we have and the quality of the friendships of the families we have? Because those people are often so much closer to our heart. And the closest people to your heart are also potentially the most dangerous people because they have access to you in a way the rest of the world just doesn't. So for a lot of this talk, and this was a much needed talk that was asked by many members, is we're going to be profiling really family, friends, and potential lovers. All right, Ryan, let's go forward.
Well, I know you're feeling a little under the weather, man. I'll start us off. Let me know if there's something I missed, but a huge key point of our community that we've had for about a year now is the idea of ace, acer, acers, and many other different variations. But the five tenets of a caring person include somebody who's authentic, somebody who's consistent, somebody who is empathetic towards others, takes responsibility, and when needed, self sacrifices for the good of other people. And what we'll notice is when we're talking about some of the specific games that people play, they violate some of these tenets of an authentic, caring person. So it's a way to tie these ideas from other books that we're suggesting back into what we've been writing about, back into what we've been speaking about, and the framework of our community that helps us build, maintain better relationships and stay away from problematic ones. And one of the hardest that I can empathize with other people is the feeling of survivor's guilt. That we had a friend, we had a family member, we had somebody truly close to us, maybe even a significant other, that just didn't succeed the way we expected or wanted them to. And we have this sense, we may have this sense of guilt, feeling like I couldn't save them, feeling like we failed to do it, or we could have done it, but we arrived too late. And then we feel the sense of losing them and a feeling of ownership over their success. And this is both beautiful and a warning. It's a wake up call because this comes from two very interesting places in our heart. It comes from the idea or understanding that we care for somebody. Therefore, we care about their health, we care about their happiness, we care about their success. And that is a beautiful thing. It's what builds and maintains communities and long lasting relationships and friendships that are irreplaceable and unforgettable. But the second part is when we feel that loss and we dawdle on it, we sit on it and we start blaming ourselves and we can't get over it, we're actually ascribing their failure as our failure. And we're taking ownership to the point where we almost feel like we could control them. And the only reason that they couldn't be saved was because we didn't do what was needed to be done, not that the person themselves had a choice in whether they would be saved or not. And so it's not about ripping our heart out and not caring about other people. The first part to making meaningful growth and letting people is that people make their own decisions, and you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And the moment we take away that ownership of their failure is my problem, it's what gives us the space and the mentality to not only be safe in our conviction and make the decisions we need to make, but it also leaves the space for other people to come into our lives where we don't feel that way and we're not put in that position. And it's very difficult because we care about people so much. But we have to understand that that sense of ownership over their success or failure is one of the things holding us back. People need to make their own decisions, and we need to let them make their own decisions. And when we let somebody make their own decisions, that is a form of love, not uptight control. And it is more empowering, more beautiful when somebody who is allowed to make their own decisions decides to be in a healthy relationship with us, not one that we are trying to force or make happen and control them with. And we'll talk a little bit later about the other implications of what happens when we try and force that. So if we're feeling survivor's guilt, if we're feeling that ownership, one of the steps to growing and moving on is understanding that just as we are free to make our own decisions and grow when other people around us may not be, they have the freedom in the decision, and we need to accept that. And that acceptance is part of the growth and healing. So, at its core, the let them principle from Mel Robbins' book is it doesn't mean when you're letting somebody do something that you approve of their actions. And I want to be clear. When I say let somebody, let them be them, I mean, if somebody is destroying your life, we're not saying let them destroy your life here. We're saying let people make their own decisions. Don't try and control them. But we have to understand that their reality is what they're going to decide. So we need to stop trying to interfere with what's actually happening. When someone shows who you are, your job is not to interrupt it, because one of the problems that arises that we've been talking about is in order to have a meaningful and healthy relationship, you need to have discernment. And you can't have discernment without information. When we step in to try and control somebody or force them to change, no matter how benevolent we feel in our hearts, that it's for their own good, we're actually interrupting the process of letting them make their own decisions and be free to make their own decisions and actually getting the information we need to understand, should I be with this person and are they good for me? So we need to let them talk, let them act, and let them respond to our boundaries. One of the things that we can do is set up the healthy boundaries that we need to thrive, that we need to succeed, that we need to be happy, because we're responsible for ourselves. But let them respond the way they wish. And that information you get is so important, and you can only get it when you stop trying to manage their responses to you. That's the idea of the let them principle. And as Terrance mentioned earlier, the deepest pain comes from the closest people to us, the ones closest to our hearts, the ones we care about the most. And it's simply for that reason that we care about them the most. They matter to us. And the let them theory, part of it is saying not everyone is important enough for you to destroy your life and your emotions and your stability over the way they react to you. And even the people closest to us, we have to accept that they are free to mistakenly believe the wrong things, to misunderstand us. We need to let them have the space to feel what they need or want to feel. So part of this process in growing, in succeeding, in becoming better at choosing and discerning the people that we want in our lives and improving our lives is that we are making the decision to be uncomfortable now so that later on, once we gain the skills and the success, our life is so much easier. But we're choosing to get uncomfortable now, and not everybody wants to do that around us. So it's a natural thing that the people close to us, around us, are more likely to feel just a little bit strained when we start to improve because we're becoming uncomfortable, and that might make them uncomfortable. But it's not a warning or a signal that you need to explain it or minimize it or reassure them. It's a signal that they're going through something that they may need to go through on their own. Let them sit with it. It's not up to you to control the way that they perceive you and what's going on. And another point, whenever we explain ourselves to somebody, we are subconsciously seeking their approval. And when it comes to living a healthier life, a better life, a happier life, a safer life, a more successful life, a life that we want to live that's good for us, we don't need anyone's approval. Over explaining what we're doing and trying to seek the approval of others is another way that we tend to beat ourselves down when they don't understand. And it's okay. Let them not understand. They can't understand something they're not ready for, but we've made the decision to move forward. Like I mentioned, our growth will disrupt the comfort of those in proximity to us. There is an unspoken status quo social hierarchy, and we break that. We break those understandings or those common expectations when we start to grow. And that's okay. We got to be ready for it. We know it's happening. Let it happen. Being too focused on trying to stop the reactions of other people to us is what stops our progress forward. We may even shrink and give in to the peer pressure of prioritizing our friendships over our own personal growth. But at the end of the day, when our friendships and the people close to us do not approve of and clash with our growth, when we are prioritizing them, we are prioritizing the comfort and happiness of other people over our own comfort and happiness. So we need to be very careful about shrinking or going into ourselves to preserve the relationship. Because if we're at a stage of uncomfortable growth, we have to understand part of being uncomfortable is unfortunately realizing that not everyone will continue forward on our journey with us. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And when we're saying that we should not be explaining to people, it means that we set our boundaries first and we stick to those boundaries and we prioritize setting and keeping boundaries that are healthy for us over trying to explain and gain approval from other people. We don't need to justify the success or soften it for others because it reinforces our dependence on their validation. So the Let Them book emphasizes boundaries, not the emotional burden of caretaking for other people's emotions. And one consequence of this is that there might be distance that starts to form. I think we all might be able to understand that there might be a friend who moved away at a certain time, or we went to college, or even at the same high school, we might have chosen different paths. And we all kind of, slowly drift away from people. But it happens a whole lot more when we start to set those boundaries and we start to improve our lives. And it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes it's necessary. It doesn't mean the person was bad. It doesn't mean the relationship is bad, but it could mean that it's not going to help us move forward in what we're looking for. That doesn't mean hate them, get rid of them, pretend they're dead. It means accepting and letting somebody drift away and appreciating the fact that we had that friendship, that relationship, and it's okay. They might envy us and they might pull away. This is a sign of misalignment. Not everyone is going to be able to walk with you on your journey and goals forward, and that is okay. And that separation does not require an argument. It doesn't require a fight. It doesn't require conflicts or confrontation. You may choose to do so, but it doesn't always require that. So, in a nutshell, the idea is let's not waste our time or energy trying to get somebody to understand you who is fixated on misrepresenting you. This is called somebody coming in bad faith. If somebody does not come with a good faith attempt to understand who you are, then it is very difficult to explain away this problem or change it anyway. And we have to not take it so personally. We have to let them have their way of thinking, their views on us, and do not take ownership of that. Let them talk, let them act, and let them respond to the boundaries that you are setting. When we take ownership of our success, we give ourselves the ability to attain it. That's what's so beautiful about the accountability that we're talking about. I stop relying on other people to become the person I want to be. But at the same time, part of that is understanding I do not need the approval of other people to become better, more successful, and happier. So when I set boundaries and people don't like it, at the end of the day, if it's helping me move forward, let's focus on how that is helping us move forward and being happier and let people be people.
One thing I want to add to that is in psychology, there's something called projection limitation principle. And that means people interpret you through the limits of their own emotional and psychological development. So someone cannot confront the honest version of you if they haven't come face to face with their own contradictions, their own accountability, their own emotional blind spots. So when we want someone to see us in a light, and that light is a light that they don't even know how to see themselves in, we have now reached the ceiling of their own cognitive development. And there was a quote, it was in a movie I saw about 2 years ago. It was the movie called Lamborghini. It was about the sports car Lamborghini, but more about the owner, the guy who created the company. And he had a conversation with his father. And a lot of the clients I work with, especially the men, have strained relationships with their father. And one of the statements he said to his father is, I need you to believe in me. I want you to believe in me. And his father said, I can't believe in what I don't see. And many of the times, the relationships that we want from someone, whether that's a parent, whether that's a significant other, whether that's a friend, heck, it might even be a coworker or a boss. The type of relationship we envision us potentially having with that person is beyond their current cognitive ability. And they would likely have to go through coaching, therapy, counseling, whatever, in order to get to that ability where they're a healthy person. But one of the rules of life in general is healthy people don't go around hurting other people. And when you notice someone who is comfortable disrupting other people's peace, this is a sign that they do not have internal peace. For instance, nobody is more insecure than a pure narcissist because that person is constantly feeling like their ego is under attack. This is somebody that isn't calm, that isn't happy, and they take it out on everyone around them. So once we're finished with the presentation, there's always usually questions, and some are about how to manage this with family or friends. We're here for that. And we also created a couple PDFs as well with some prompts of how to initiate those types of conversations. All right, next slide. So here we're going into more of the psychological games people play. So once we get to the point where we say, hey, let them be who they are. Let them show me who they are. The next part is up to us to analyze what's in front of us. And again, the book Games People Play, one of the best books ever written on transactional analysis and how people try to transact behavior from other individuals. And we're going to go through, there's at least 20 versions of it. We're going to put all 20 versions on the Patreon. In the interest of time, we're just going to go through about 5 of them. Ryan can go to the next one. All right, go ahead and take us from here.
Feels good. A lot of these, because I'm gonna summarize them because we can go into these at depth, and I don't want to inundate everyone with way too much information, but I want to give you just enough that you can recognize these so that we can choose whether we want to play these games or not. Most of these are about denying responsibility or accountability and framing somebody else as the problem. You might have heard this before. Uh, if you've ever watched Scooby Doo, if it weren't for you meddling kids, I would have gotten away with it.
Oh, wow.
People tend to blame other people for their lack of success to avoid responsibility and make their victimhood feel righteous almost as if it's a moral superiority rather than I didn't make the right decision. I got caught not because the cops found me, but because I did something wrong. It's
Absolutely.
about avoiding responsibility. See what you made me do is also like that. And a lot of you might have heard this, similar to gaslighting. And at the worst part of the manipulative part of this is somebody who's emotionally unstable or looking to make you feel bad about their emotional instability. So they might even provoke conflict with you, but uses your reaction, your probably sensible reaction, to them unnecessarily provoking conflict to justify their own bad behavior, to shift the blame, shift the guilt, and make it seem like their unreasonable temper tantrums or their illogical decisions that are destroying other people's lives are not their fault.
I would see this all the time on crime scenes. So this is something you often see with domestic violence. Domestic violence, a lot of sociopathic slash narcissistic behavior where it's not my reaction that's the problem. It's the fact that this person created this reaction in me. It's the person is taking no accountability for their self-regulation. That once this person gets upset, they are justified to lash out. They're justified in throwing stuff. They're justified in doing all these other things. So when you see what you made me do, see what you made me do is always an eraser for bad behavior. So when you see that this is something that has to be noticed, and depending on how severe it is, I would recommend exiting the relationship because, like, this is if I put out a scale and said what level of emotional development somebody is acting on, it would probably be somewhere between 7 and 12. If somebody is consistently provoked and they use this type of phrasing, it could take 5 years or 10 years to get that person to like a normal level of social development. And I don't know about you, I don't have that kind of time. So. Like I'm a professional and I get paid professionally to do this. I wouldn't recommend somebody just bring someone into their life and they have to go through all these hoops and issues. But I don't know, Ryan, what out of this five, which ones have you encountered the most?
4 and 5.
Oh yeah, four is always a setup. It's a setup, yeah.
4, 4, 5, and in the midst of relationships and failing like marriages, a lot of number 3.
Number four,
I
you
often
actually,
see,
I was gonna say
huh?
number four, you see a lot in corporate America now. So
Yes.
they already want to fire someone for no good reason. So they
Hmm.
look for a mistake the person made that might have been harmless or wouldn't be a fireable offense, and then you get rid of that person. So like I'm finding a lot of this especially since so many companies did not produce profit margins that were as high, back in December. There's a lot of people that are at risk of losing their jobs, and on their evaluations, you're seeing a lot more of number four, which is dangerous.
Hmm.
Yeah, but what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, you always got to be careful of somebody who pretends to bury the hatchet when they haven't really forgiven you if you've done something wrong, or they choose to misunderstand you and misrepresent you and do it quietly until you make a mistake. Then you will hear 1,000 things you've done wrong, not one. And that doesn't mean you have to have done something wrong. It means that they think you did.
Well, they
So
didn't truly
one of
forgive you.
the, huh?
I was saying they didn't truly forgive you.
That's if you did something wrong. So a lot of the times now I've got you isn't even been about whether you did something wrong. It's they think that you did and they have an agenda to fulfill.
What I'm saying is,
So
even if you went into their subjective reality, even if you
mhm,
went in their subjective reality of how the situation is looking, where's the
mhm,
forgiveness? Where's the righteousness? So even their internal calculus of how they're looking at the situation is flawed from the root. So, that's one of those problems that, again, a lot of times it's hard for people to see it unless someone points it out to them and says, you did this with the intention of doing that.
mhm. Number 5 is one that the people closest to us may fall into when they confide in us, which is, look how hard I've tried. And their failure is framed as a proof of effort, but they never think about whether they had a poor strategy or were really avoiding the problem. Meaning, the effort that they put in, was it really anything that could have helped, or did they just try to do anything whether or not it mattered? And this is usually to protect somebody's ego that says, I'm not successful, not because of me. Look how hard I've tried. It's evidence that I tried hard enough to be successful, but it's not my fault. And the danger about this is that if we don't realize that the people close to us are doing this, then when we give them sympathy, we are almost helping them dig their heels in and letting their ego grow. There is a place for sympathy. The place for sympathy is when we're going through a hard time, we're choosing to solve our problems, and it's hard to bear. We have that friend who's willing to give us sympathy and help us feel better and have a safe place so we can move forward. The place for sympathy is not when people are trying to make excuses and not hold themselves responsible because that helps them dig their heels in. So when the people closest to us start to do this, we have to set that boundary, set that line, and stop providing sympathy unless they are needing the sympathy to help them do the right thing, not create excuses to not try more. So they repeat the same behaviors. Life is difficult, life is hard. We don't always know how to solve our problems the first time. But when we fail and we try something different to the best of our ability, that's one of the ways we can measure whether we're growing or not. And if somebody isn't trying a different way, they're not, if they're not doing the same behaviors, right? Then they have a chance. But if they repeat the same behaviors, it's a signaling of, look how hard I've tried it. I'm not going to change. And I just want sympathy, but I don't want to do anything different. And I want to feel totally okay not doing what I need to do and not going where I want to go.
Absolutely. And these were just one of five. The Patreon has we're going to be posting all 20 of them on the Patreon with a lot more background as well. So this is one of the hardest points to deal with is the people you wanted beside you in the beginning are often the very ones you must release to become who you're meant to be. And what hurts the most is knowing their presence mattered deeply to your vision, even though the journey required you to continue without them. And this goes to this is a great conversation starter, especially if you're dating, if you want to have a deep conversation with somebody. And it doesn't have to be completely personal. You can take it from a movie. It's as simple as, do you notice how in a lot of movies, the main character often has to shed or get rid of the people in the beginning of the movie in order for him or her to become the hero? Has that ever happened to you? And this is something I know very, very few good people who have beautiful lives who didn't have to get rid of some of their closest allies. Because you get to a certain point where you realize that person is not your ally anymore. They're your anchor. They're holding you back. You know, Ryan, in all our coaching, we've talked to thousands of men and women over the years. I would say this is probably the thing that comes across the most with young men is the necessity to get rid of their friends because their friends were with them for a season, but they're not ready for the next season that they're heading into. You know, if you want to work 80 or 90 hours a week to achieve a certain amount of success, you can't hang around somebody that wants to play Grand Theft Auto video games all day. You know, if you want to start taking your life more seriously, going to the gym, let's say you don't want to, if somebody's taking drugs, they want to stop drinking. If they're, if they have all these other issues holding them back and they're trying to fix it, you notice that often your friends will try to drag you right back into that life. And it's hard, but those ties have to be cut or those boundaries have to be lifted. And when those boundaries are often lifted, those people will leave your life voluntarily because it's like a mirror onto their own bad behavior. Because in order for them to get you to give up on your dreams, they had to have already given up on theirs. So often, an honest 2 hour conversation about where this relationship is headed and where you are headed as an individual will often cut 2 years of problems out of your life.
Said,
Thank you. And this is one of the ways to do it is that, there was a ton of people that I had to leave their presence. I had to get them out of my life. And, I miss them. I still miss them. But I can miss them from a distance. Just because I miss them doesn't mean I have to bring them aboard the ship that I'm on and the destination I'm headed. So you appreciate the memories, but then it's up to us to rewire our own brain on what our value system is. And it's if I want to head into a positive direction and somebody's trying to prevent me from going there, can I call this person a friend? Do I need to reevaluate my actual definition of a friend? I have a client that I'm going to be talking to later on today, and one of the questions is I asked this person, what does it mean to be married? And that's one of the questions they didn't ask themselves before they even thought about going down that route is why do you want to be married? What does it mean? So when we say somebody's our friend, what does it mean? When we say somebody's our loved one or an ally, what does that mean and what responsibilities are built upon that other than the person is just standing next to us? All right, Ryan, is there anything you want to add to that or you want to just go?
no, I just wanted to say there are problematic people in our lives that we care about that we might miss. And there are people that are not problematic. They simply just didn't want the same thing out of life that we did. And the work that we put in may necessitate a little bit of distance. It's okay to miss them. What's not okay is to obsess over it because that obsession means we are taking ownership and trying to force other people to live our reality. And I just wanted to touch on this. Like, I have lost a lot of friends. Some of them died young. Some of them we had to part ways due to what we wanted out of life. And I can miss those memories. I can miss that relationship. But when we're moving forward towards our success, our happiness, our health, the marriage we're looking for, the friends and community that we're looking for, it's almost bittersweet, but we can't find that sweetness for the rest of our life if we're not willing to move to the next stage and just appreciate what we had if we liked it, but understand it's time for something different. It's the uncomfortable part of growth, but the part that makes it beautiful is like we said earlier, there's the stage of a little bit of loneliness. But when you start moving forward on your path and purpose, you attract people who are moving on the same path and purpose. You're not going to be lonely forever as long as you continue moving forward on your journey and doing what you need to do. And it's okay to have people that you talk to that sympathize, that empathize, and help you move forward. And all we're saying is make sure you're making that decision and make sure the people that you're keeping around are helping you move forward, not holding you back. So we talked a little earlier about love and control, and it is the beautiful relationships, the long lasting relationships are the one that when you love somebody, you let them be them, you let them be free to make the decision, but they make the decision to be around with you. So love people enough when you care about them, when you love them enough to make their own decisions and be free, even if that means loving them or caring about them from a distance. But we do need to set healthy boundaries. And one of the healthy boundaries we need to set is understanding that we cannot control what they're going to choose or where they're going to go. We cannot save them if they don't want to be saved. We cannot force them to understand us when they don't want to understand us. All we can do is provide help if they want it and allow them, if they've earned it, if they're good for us, to walk beside us. Otherwise, let them be free, let them be them, and let ourselves succeed.
1000%.
You can't save somebody from themselves. Somebody is not going to be saved if they don't want to be saved. Like Terrance said earlier, somebody can only come to the understanding of you and a situation and what's happening to the level of their knowledge and experience. Sometimes, no matter how much we want to help somebody, our advice is going to fall on deaf ears, not because they're trying to ignore us, but they haven't been through what they need to in order to understand what we're saying or trying to do. Sometimes people need to make their own mistakes. And that growth that we're getting, the growth that the people we care about are getting, is only going to come from growth and behavioral change through feedback. When we heal people from the natural consequences of their actions, we're actually harming them by not letting them learn for themselves. And if you've ever had somebody who's a real stubborn jerk or just really stubborn in your life, you can understand how tiring it is to argue with them, to try and change their mind. And at the end of the day, you cannot outwork somebody's self identity or their habits. You cannot. Only their own work can help change those things about themselves.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Ryan, one thing that this is kind of touching on is me and Ryan are writing another book. It's called The Seven Types of People That Can Ruin Your Life. And
Mhm.
there's seven archetypes of individuals you have to watch out for. The next event where we talk about sociopaths and narcissists, we're going to touch on certain chapters from that book. Because it's ironic, as varied as humans are, there's usually only a certain amount of ways somebody can be problematic. So, like when you're talking about right now, somebody can try to ignore reality, but they can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
Mhm.
So, if they're a truly problematic person, they will not have the results in their life. They just won't. Healed, healthy people at a certain point remove problematic people from their life. They just do. It's like be tending to a garden. You can't have a beautiful garden if you got weeds growing all over the place. I found that out last year. I had a garden for a little bit, then the weeds took over. And I waited too long. And then there wasn't much garden left. So the mind is very similar. And whether we're talking about anxiety, whether we're talking about fear or anger or all these things, what often happens is if you pull the weeds from your mind, which are often problematic people giving you ideas, problematic people saying things about you, problematic people not giving you positive encouragement, it's amazing how our lives change just by replacing problematic people with healthy people. Just want to throw that in there.
Well said, man. The only thing I wanted to add before we start to wrap up this portion is it's not that people aren't worth saving, right? Or that charity is bad and we should only focus on ourselves. It's that understanding that we can only sacrifice so much and we should only choose to sacrifice our time and resources when it actually will help people and that it's worth it. Because often when we have a good heart, but we don't always practice discernment, we end up spending way too much time, too much energy, and we forsake, ignore, or deny opportunities for ourselves to be successful. And it's a form of self sabotage. Because in the end, they couldn't be saved. They didn't need to be saved. They didn't ask to be saved. They didn't ask for our help. And we're not doing as well as we want to be. but we're putting other people above us. So we want to be careful about self sabotage.
Absolutely. And
A
this
little
is
bit
just,
more about,
go ahead, go ahead.
sorry, say that again.
No, I
I was going to
said
say, you,
there's a small delay. Sorry
moving,
about that.
no, no worries. Internet issues. What are you going to do, man? Um, a little bit more about romantic relationships, especially. React the way that your body and the way that you feel around somebody and react to them is a huge part of understanding or checking in with ourselves on whether this is healthy or moving in the right direction and potentially not. So part of that is when you're with the right person, you should feel safe. You should feel relaxed. You should feel at ease. So your breathing might start to slow down. You might start to feel more relaxed. You might feel at peace. And with the wrong person, there are other signs. You might realize after spending time with them and going home, you realize you were tense because your jaw relaxes and now your jaw hurts because you were clenching it the entire time. Or you might start to get a little bit of chest pain or feeling exhausted and you feel on edge, but you can't really explain it. Some people will call it stress, some people will call it anxiety. Sometimes it's hard to pin down. It doesn't mean automatically there's a problem with this person, but it is a check in point for us to start asking why. Because when we know somebody well and they're healthy for us, we start exhibiting signs of relaxation, peace, slowing down, safety. So if we compare the way we're reacting to somebody on whether we're at peace or we're clenching our muscles or stressed, whether we want to spend more time with this person and it drains us or it energizes us or it makes us feel relaxed, these are all check-in points to really help us understand. Because sometimes we want to convince ourselves that we like somebody and we want to spend time for them, but the signs are clear in the stress in our body and the stress in our mind, and it keeps compounding. And it's another way of self sabotaging our success. Anything you wanted to add, Terrance?
I think that's one of the problems where the way to help ourselves is to get our mind and our body to a place where we're healthy, where you're physically healthy and you're mentally healthy. Because once you get to that homeostasis, it becomes clear when you're around someone that's disrupting that. And one of the ways I look at it is when you want to know how you truly feel about someone, let's say everyone you came across tomorrow makes you feel how that person makes you feel today. Would your day be great or awful? And that's when you can start putting into practice just how do I feel about this person? Am I actually able to have deep conversations with this individual? Does this person really empathize and care about me? And if I'm having a bunch of draining conversations, can I imagine if I had to have 30 of those conversations tomorrow? And that's likely a sign that the construct of the relationship needs to be changed, or you might want to exit the relationships. That's just one of the ways, but we're going to go into deeper information on the Patreon as well as start answering some questions after. I think we got two more slides, right? Or is this the last one?
Yeah, I, that was the last one.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate those people who have been coming out for the last year or so on Saturdays at 1:30, like we've been doing. Um, we appreciate everybody who has asked us questions. The people that have referred others to us, that have brought other people into the community, that have suggested topics for our books and our events. We appreciate all of you, especially the ones who come on camera and ask questions and let us know later that we were able to help them and their lives are doing better. We appreciate all of you. We just have a couple of announcements.
Yep.
I know
So
your voice has been strained, Terrance, but tell people what's been going on.
okay, so for the first book is already out. We talked about it in the last event, but if you couldn't make it to the last event, we have a guide. Me and Ryan put together a lot of our profiling expertise and a basic how-to guide if somebody's trying to understand, especially understand men, but also the different ways that men operate in a relationship between whether you're dealing with a boyfriend or a non-boyfriend. Non-boyfriend string you along, boyfriends that we talk about lead people to long-term relationships slash marriage. Me and Ryan have several other books on the way, all to combat some of the issues we find on this forum and some of the other forums we're on. We have a book planning for how to make friends, as well as 101 questions to ask before you're in a serious relationship. Yeah, we have a lot planned, so stay tuned. The other thing is starting in February, we're going to have one meetup a month because we're on different platforms now. So we're going to start doing other work on Patreon, other work on YouTube. And the other thing we're focused on is we're going to end up launching a fitness community in the spring and summer. One of the ways to really change your life is you got to take your body back. You have to reclaim your energy. And one of the quickest ways to do that is to start getting better at exercise. So we're going to start putting videos out there for exercise. I have asthma. Ryan has asthma. I have allergies as well. So a lot of
So
the
do I.
so a lot of the content is actually going to be geared towards people who are beginners or might have breathing problems or any of the other stuff, and just ways to get your body right, even if you have asthma or breathing problems. So, and we did some research and we found out there's not a single group on this platform that talks about uh fitness from the standpoint of somebody that has asthma or allergies. So we're going to do it. We haven't just, we're probably going to launch another group to specify just on that. So we'll be putting together pamphlets and information about, you know, place, maybe if you haven't, spoke to a specialist, what that could look like, and then different workout regimens, and then actually being on camera and doing them. So, yeah, we have a lot planned. So, anything you want to add, Ryan, before we get to the Q&A?
Uh, we have a slew of videos planned on our respective YouTube channels regarding discernment, part of this let them theory about how we should let people be in the games people play. And this includes some important conversations to have with somebody before you get married. So I highly suggest looking there soon to start seeing those series posted.
Yeah. So me and Ryan are going to go through at least 50 of those questions over the next month on the YouTube,
Mhm.
why the questions are important. And some of the questions we'll even put down video links to I love movies to see how this is done in movies as well. So, all right,
Mhm.
Ryan, let's get to it.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
We
perfect.
now have, before you leave, this is our question and answer session. So if there is something that we presented or touched on or didn't touch on that you have questions about, this is where you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and we'll let you come one by one and ask us questions, and we'll answer them. And we will also take some of your questions as much as we can from the chat as well. So our lovely moderators, Andra and Jeannie, have been collecting the questions that you've been putting in chat and sending them to Terrance and I. So we'll do a few live questions and a few from the chat.
Ooh, cool. All right. Hey, Ryan, can you do that thing so they can unmute themselves?
Can you do the thing where you make me a co-host? I am a co-host.
Do
You
Why
that
are a
can't
thing.
co-host.
I?
I'm about to say, man, I
The
messed up. I
host,
thought I
the
had you.
host. No, 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 no. The host tools moved. People have the ability to unmute themselves and start their video. So,
Oh,
hey, Roseanne.
you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. I want to start by thanking you so much for an amazing session. I'm so sorry that I can't turn my video on because I'm in the
Oh, you're
car.
fine. Oh, you're fine.
I do have I do have a question about the issue of the hypersensitive person. It's a term that was coined by Elaine Aron in her great book, The Hypersensitive Person. And, um, you know, being with narcissists, because I think there's nothing more dangerous than an HSP, being with a narcissist or marrying one. And I got a response at one point when I emailed the author asking about whether there's been research on that topic. Um, and I don't think there's been a lot of research on the issue, but I think it's really, really important that we educate, especially youth, about just the dangers of being in those very toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationships. And I don't think there's enough being done at the, academic or education level to educate young people so that they don't ever venture into those types of situations or contexts. So maybe that's a topic. I don't know if you guys have done any research on that, specifically as it relates to the more sensitive folks out there. But I think it's a very pertinent topic, and I just wanted to kind of raise it in case
So,
you have any resources or if it's something that you've been addressing.
so when you say more sensitive types of people out there, one of the question I'm asking is sensitivity the same as victimology? So like I'm a very sensitive person. So like when I'm sensitive, that's one of the reasons I don't go on vacations a lot because I truly see people. So like I see people suffering. I don't know how people, I'm gonna be real, I don't know how people go to third world countries and have a great time on vacation. Like all I see is miserable. I see people miserable all over the place. But that's because I'm truly watching people. So one of the things we have to separate is because I'm sensitive, does that mean that I lack discernment and I bring problematic people into my life? And the way to fix that takes work. It takes work. And it takes work beyond reading books because that person is going to have to learn how to defend themselves. And you learn about how to defend yourself by learning about, first of all, why do I fall victim to certain stuff? Do I prefer words versus actions? What are the signs of a problematic person? But also, what are the signs that I'm in a good group? So, one of the things that has happened with the rise of, I call it psychology on the internet, is we know all the information about narcissist or narcissism is like on the main conversation, but there's not a lot of talk about what are healthy communities. How do healthy people navigate? So like and I think that's where we want to kind of like put the onyx on is if you don't know what a good person looks like, how do you know what a bad person looks like? And the other instance is that there's a breakdown of communities. So I learned a lot about how to defend myself and what does a problematic person look like. I was raised by the men around me because I was raised in the hood. And if you don't know how to discern a problematic person from a healthy person, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get hurt, or you might be killed. So, like, I have that skill. My wife has that skill. My mom has that skill. And the way to get that skill is to learn how to watch people. Now, I could put together something about it, but the one thing I don't want is I don't want people to have false knowledge where if I teach you what a sociopath looks like from my eyes, then almost everybody around us starts looking like a problematic person. So on one end, we have to know the signs of a problematic person. On the other end, there are wonderful individuals out there. And I think a lot of times we don't have friendships. We don't have healthy people in our life that we can trust. And then because of that, we have to make so many of these judgment calls on other individuals by themselves. We don't have a community that's actually helping us look at people. Like I'm an expert. I got a master's degree. I got a JD. I'm about to get another master's degree. I've had hundreds and hundreds of cases, and I still don't make judgment calls just by myself because everyone sees a different piece of the puzzle of an individual. So I'll ask my wife, what do you see? I'll ask Ryan, what does he see? I'll ask some of my other friends, what do they see? And it's very difficult to truly analyze someone if we're by ourselves and we're doing it alone. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
I think you said it beautifully. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Appreciate you. I hope that helps, but um it's
Certainly, thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome. It's just one of the things that's very clear is that if and this is a test I can think of real quick. Let's say you have a calendar with how you want to lay out your week. Most professional men I know have a calendar. You got to have a calendar. And it says, "Hey, I work out this time, I work out this time, I eat, I do this." Letting someone know this is how you live your life and then seeing how and if they're willing to disrupt it and if you tell them no, how do they respond? Because problematic people, they lack impulse control and they lack a lot of empathy. So if you say, hey, on Saturday from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that's my journaling and reading time. Do they respect that, or do they try to disrupt it? Do they deal with boundaries? And that's going to tell you a lot. And so, for instance, I'm an introvert. Ryan's pretty extroverted. So we work out really well together. If I'm highly sensitive, it would definitely help me to make friends with somebody who's a little bit more ruthless. Again, uh, people in sales, if you a police officer, like real estate agents, and then my favorite are lawyers. These people see a lot. They often see right through bullcrap because they have to be good at what they do. And some of the individuals I've seen with the greatest amount of discernment on other people are, those individuals, especially real estate agents. Because, real estate agents, they have to be able to figure out are you full of crap when you're trying to do a deal or something. So, you know, when we look at our friendship and our Rolodex of people in our life, there's certain individuals we should have in there. We need to have that discernment person in there that can help us. Yep. I see Jennifer in there. She says she's a realtor. See, like I said, they're good at it. All right, Andrea, are there any more questions that we can take care of before people start raising their hands?
There are tons of questions. There's one, let's see, from Lana. Lana, are you still on? I think it's better if you ask your question because I don't quite understand it. So it's
I
about a parent and who's self-destructive.
I am still on. Can you hear me okay?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
can.
I'm using this on my phone. My question was at the time we were talking about basically not being in relationships with people who are problematic people, if it's a parent, it seems like, and I'm of the age where a parent is getting older, it just feels like I have an allegiance or a loyalty, or we're raised to believe that we have to honor our parents, this, that, and the other thing, but it feels so toxic and painful to be around this person. And they disrespect my boundaries. Thank you. And you guys do great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Ryan, you can go ahead and answer that. I am going to put in a small pamphlet on here on how to use boundaries with a parent. I've just posted it just now. Let me know if you saw it. You should see it in about 15 seconds. This is a guideline I use all the time.
So thank you, Lana. It's a very difficult situation. I understand that it can feel difficult, but what Terrance and I are here for is to try and make it a little bit easier. Um, when we were talking about let them, it's not about letting people be toxic to you or letting people hurt you. It's not about enabling or approving of it. It's that we cannot control their decisions or their ideas or their actions. We cannot force them to act differently. That's what the let them theory is about. It doesn't mean if a toxic parent is toxic, we let them continue to be toxic to us. Now, what that actually looks like practically is understanding, is there a certain situation? Is there a certain topic, a certain environment where this person might be more toxic? Or what are the boundaries that I can set with this person where they don't even have the opportunity to be toxic? And it's a way that you can balance between your religious, your cultural, your inner belief about honoring your parents or how close you feel you should be to them versus the reality of there's a certain point that the toxicity will take a toll on you and there needs to be a boundary that is set. Those boundaries may look like you speaking with somebody who can help you understand what your tolerances are. Maybe you can take 30 minutes of it without being affected, but you're still showing respect to your parents by not just exiting their lives without saying anything. It might look like only spending certain time with them or spending time with them when they're with somebody else in the family where they're not as inclined to be toxic. There are many ways to go about it, but we are not talking about letting somebody hurt us to the point where we can't move forward, even if that means they're our parent. So we need to find that line where we are not disrespecting, dishonoring, or doing something against what we truly believe is right, while at the same time understanding we deserve a certain amount of stability in our life. So, where can we draw that boundary? So, even when it comes to parents, we don't let them destroy our lives. And just like they might have tried to help us when we were kids stop ourselves from self destructing, we can only do so much to try and help them from self destructing. But at the end of the day, it might be very difficult to accept in our hearts, but we can only see them succeed to the manner that they want to succeed. And if they need our help and they ask for our help and they want our help, we can give it to them. But the more that we try and step in or force something different, the more we're inviting them to be toxic. So the first thing we want to stop doing is inviting them to be toxic. Does that help answer your question?
That's, I really appreciate it. I kind of, I guess I have let go of my, I don't want to take up too much time, but I just let go of the relationship with my mom and haven't talked to her. And so feel guilty about that. Like, I guess, how do you deal with the guilt of, I mean, of, I mean, I don't know. I like your idea of like maybe, I mean, I just kind of like let it go, like my relationship with her totally.
Well, it's like
So,
this.
yeah.
A relationship is two people. So if one person wants one type of relationship and the other person wants another type of relationship, now this isn't going to work. We're on different playing fields. So I can love someone from a distance. There's a lot of people I love that I used to, friends of mine. I love them like brothers. But I'm not about to go commit a bunch of felonies and go to prison for 20 years like them. So, and this is actually very painful. And Ryan, I forgot what question this is in our next book, but one of the questions we have is, what are the ways you know you're failing as a parent? And most
And
parents were never taught how to be parents. They just had kids. They didn't get any
another
help.
related
What I'm saying, they didn't get any help. They didn't get any coaching. They didn't get any counseling. They just had kids.
Are you going to write that
Mhm.
book? Because
I'm probably
It's
I
being
gonna.
written
look,
right now.
I I'm getting the notes on the end. I have grown kids and they're giving me their notes now that they're grown. And some of them don't have kids, so
Yeah.
I don't really respect that advice as much as I do with the ones that have kids. But yeah, when are you gonna write that book?
Probably later, but a lot of the cases I worked on primarily in the end of my career were crimes against children. And whether we like it or not, the children in our lives are creating a notebook of how they reacted to us and how we did as a parent. And it's like, even if we don't want to read those notes, we will deal with the consequences of that. And all you have to do, every home you go to, when you see somebody in a retirement home who can't tell you the last time they saw their children, Those were thousands of small conversations that never took place that should have taken place. So it's very, very common. And one of the things we have to realize with relationships, your average relationship is not good. Your average person, what does average mean? The average person in America is broke. The average individual does not have a fulfilling job. The average person never achieves his or her goals. So what we're actually talking about is rare. It's rare because your average person is not going to sit down and have honest conversations with with the people he or she says they love. They never have these honest conversations. And they don't have these honest conversations with themselves. So the question is, how do I become above average? And the above average way to live is being honest with ourselves. What kind of relationship do I want to have with myself? What kind of relationship do I want to have with other people? And if the people around me are not okay with that relationship, I will care about you from a distance. And I live exactly the way I'm talking. And there's a number of individuals I see here, they're already my clients. And it's difficult in the beginning, but it gets easier the more you do it. I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Lana.
All right, what's next?
Renee. We'll take the question from Renee. She has her hand up.
Okay, perfect.
Hi. I
Hi,
didn't expect to be called on. That was great. Thanks.
we appreciate you.
Because I've been here a few times with you guys, and I really appreciate the information that you provide. Um,
Thank you
yeah,
very much.
especially love the narcissistic stuff. Man, have I pulled stuff in like that my whole life.
Mm,
I think a lot of it had to do with the way my mother was when I was young. So, in referring to mothers, like forgot who it was. Was it Andra? Anyway, the point is my mother's extremely narcissistic person. There's a lot of them are from that era, you know. My mom's 91, still with us, you know, and man, she's still difficult. So, so I think as a whole, like my sister and I and my two brothers seem to handle a lot better than my sister and I, simply because we are more the caregivers. The thing is we have to keep her at arm's length so we don't get sucked in to her BS, you know? She loves to play the victim, you know, and my sister had a hard time because she hadn't had to deal with it as much as I have.
yeah.
I'm the oldest in the family, so
Oh,
I was victimized young. So I actually had to help my sister now to distance herself and not feel guilty about it, because it is about preservation. We want her to have a good life for the years that she has left, but we don't have to be there every minute of the day to make her feel good, you know? I know a lot of cultures are like that, where they feel guilty if they're not really taking care of their parents. Anyway, we can get to my question, which is, how do you, once you are aware of this toxic relationship, and you know that there's no way you're going to be able to make it so that you can live happily. Um, how do you disconnect without feeling guilty? How do you get yourself to not care as much because you've been caring for so long, right?
mhm.
And it's kind of a habit now. So, how do you actually disconnect?
Here, Ryan, I could take this real quick. First question is, do you have any nieces or nephews?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
What's the youngest one? Like what age?
Oh, oh my goodness. She was just born recently. She's 6 months.
Okay, so your 6 month old. if she tried to take the wheel to your car, you would stop her immediately because a
Of
6 month old
course.
doesn't know how to drive.
Right.
So one of the problems that we have is we look at somebody's title, and the title may be mother, dad, and then we look at their age, but that's
Mm-hmm.
just their biological age. That's not their psychological age.
Mm-hmm.
Their psychological age might be 7.
Okay.
So what you do is you look at them, but truly see them. So when somebody's displaying narcissistic personality traits or selfish personality traits, I want you to look at them the way you look at your nephew.
Okay.
Is like a 7 or 8 year old that's throwing a tantrum, because what you're watching is an adult throwing a tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, if a 7 year old's throwing a tantrum, you don't kowtow to them. But you're also not terribly surprised either.
Okay.
You love them, but this person's psychological age is 7. So if I expect this person to communicate like a reasonable adult, at that point, I'm not being reasonable because they literally don't have it in them.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, totally. I mean, you
Yeah.
can see it. You can actually see it in these people. And the problem that both my sister and I had is you try to reason with them, but you
Mm-mm.
can't.
You're trying to reason with a 7 year old throwing a tantrum.
Right. Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
and I want you to keep thinking of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to reason with a 7 year old. I'm,
Yeah.
somebody might be getting relationship advice or financial advice from someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Then
Mm-hmm.
in your mind, you just say that this person's trying to give me advice and they have no proven avenues of success.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
get
Right.
I get all kind of family members that want me to go into business with them and they don't have $2 to their name.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me go ahead. Let me go ahead and hire a doctor who's killed all his patients while I'm at it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's
Actually, yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
go ahead. But see, that's why a lot of what happens in our life is either a tragedy or it's a comedy.
Uh-huh.
So when we have people acting out to the best of our ability, it's, well, she's 7. What can I do? Or, he's 9 years old pretending to be a 25-year-old.
See, that's how I deal with my mother right now. I treat her like a child. I actually
And
do. I cut
you,
her off really quickly. Or
you,
I give her orders, you know? I'll just say, hey, go do this.
and it's at the end of the day,
Yeah,
you try to keep the tenets of the relationship together to the best of your ability. But
right.
again, if somebody's not operating in good faith, what can you do? Because if kindness will be misinterpreted as weakness and
Yeah,
will be used as a sword to cut me, then I
yeah.
can't give you that blade.
So, so if you were involved with a person, say like my now ex-husband, thank God, um, it was difficult to pull away. It was difficult to make that decision because you're married, you know.
Hmm.
A tradition says it's hard, you're not supposed to get divorced kind of thing. I still think like that. I'm one of the older generation types.
Hmm.
But it's difficult to disconnect.
Hmm.
How do you do it?
It's hard to
Emotion.
disconnect if you don't know where you're going.
Okay.
So if you lay down a sheet of paper and said,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, if I was writing my life like it was an autobiography, and
Right.
as I wrote, my life became this, what would my life look like?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we ruminate about the past, it's
Mm-hmm.
because we're not focused on our future.
Okay.
We're not focused on, so for instance, like my aunt's 70 years old and she decided to be an author. So then she started writing books at the age of 70.
Yeah.
So if we got serious and said, you know what, when I wake up in the morning, what gives me energy? What gives me hope? What kind of impact do I want to have on my life while I'm
Mm-hmm.
still here?
Right. 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 Right.
And so if we focus on what gives me hope and what gives me happiness and try to do more of that,
Mm-hmm.
then the past stops looking so beautiful because we want to look towards the future with hope,
Mm-hmm.
not the past with disgust.
Correct. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
hope that
know.
helps. Okay.
Oh, it does actually. And I've been thinking like that for myself as well. I'm as old as your aunt, by the way. So the point is, life still goes on, you
Oh,
know.
there's a ton of life.
Oh
We a
yeah,
lot of times we
definitely.
give up. We give up so much sooner, and there's so much we can accomplish. We just don't realize it.
Well, and that's it. When people get to a certain age, for some reason, they go, "Oh, I don't have to do anymore." You
I
know?
quit. But then that's when the mind starts running away from us because we're not using it
Exactly.
correctly. But
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan, back to you.
Okay, Jay, I see that you also have a question in the queue. What's your question?
You can unmute yourself.
Does
Oh,
it does a person stop their psychological age when they start using drugs or alcohol?
Hi, Jennifer. We're talking about Jay who has their hand up. We will get
Oh,
to your
I'm
question.
sorry, you were
No
someone
worries,
Oh, no
else.
problem.
but no worries. But since you asked, I'm not a doctor and I cannot answer that question. How about you, Terrance?
Good answer.
Depending on
Thanks.
the drugs, but it's not my specialty. I will say in
Yeah.
general,
I was
when you
saying
engage it,
street drugs,
oh,
not prescription drugs.
oh no, well, either way, I mean, they do dull neurological functions. It's not usually helpful to someone's long-term development, especially if it dulls your awareness. So,
That's what I thought. Thank you very much, Terrence.
yep, you're welcome. All right,
Thank you
Jay,
for
go
being
ahead.
patient, Jay.
yeah, of course. So my question relates to sort of reducing the lead time. And let me know if you know what I mean by lead time between being able to spot a true person's being. I guess categorically, sorry, I'm nervous, a bad person, not a good fit for me, because I'm finding, based on my history, is that um, I. I will experience someone as caring, kind, thoughtful, nurturing. They will present their value system as similar to mine, and having similar life goals. And oftentimes this is in the romantic stage where they've never met me before, so there's no way they could have known to say these things. But then a few months, sometimes a year, but not longer than that, I catch them by then. Um, their sort of true self of either they're an avoidant narcissist, anyway, in those terms that, and I've worked very hard after each relationship with intentionality about seeking professional help and books and podcasts and even like energetic similarities. And yet I'm still finding that I'm running into, even if it's not the same person as my ex with a different face, it's a different permutation I've never experienced. And I'm like, I've only got so much life to live. How many permutations until I get to at least a a decent person, a good fit. So yeah, hopefully that's my question. Is like, how do we shorten the lead time? Because and I'll end with this is that I feel like I'm very successful in other areas of discernment, right? I've even in my professional career, discernment is what sets me apart from a lot of my colleagues. It's just a knowing. So it's like in other areas of my life, I have this excellent discernment, even about my body and my health. I don't struggle in that area. God bless for that reason. But it just seems like in certain areas, particularly in the romantic, I still seem to have, I don't know what it's called, a blind spot or an inability to close the lead time or processing assessment time. And that really bothers me because time is all we have. That's going to be gone.
One of the things I'm gonna give this to Ryan to answer, but so it's a lot easier for men to pick up on other men because I don't have conversations with men. I have contracts. So if I'm having a conversation with another man, I'm not looking at this as a conversation. I'm looking at this as a contract of who this person says they are and what they say they're about. And if I see as we continue this relationship, I'm going to see if this person is the contract they're supposed to be. So if this person says they're hardworking, we're going to lay out what does hardworking mean. Like men, this is one, and this is something, especially if you've been around male circles, we're really into terms. because I want to know how I can hold this person accountable. And one of the questions I'm going to ask before I turn this over to Ryan, were you taught the definition or the difference between a boyfriend and a husband before? Like, what does that person look like in the real world?
Short answer is no. Growing up in a very abusive, chaotic household, I don't think I was shown, and therefore I don't believe I was taught. I have definitely, as an adult, attempted to, but I'm still finding because I'm not achieving the outcomes I want, I'm still feeling like I haven't fully either understood the idea or applied it correctly,
Okay,
or both.
makes sense. Ryan, you got where do you want to attack it from?
You might be finding, Jay, the struggle between discernment or having the skill of discernment in your professional life, in your health, in other areas of your life, and having the problem here. Maybe because of that, are very good at discerning something when we, one, have a little bit of knowledge, and two, wisdom, meaning we have experience and we know how to see it and how to apply it. From your
Mhm.
professional life, you I'm assuming you have a lot of practice in that. You have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of knowledge that you can use that other people might not have, and you might be very careful about it rather than careless. It's hard to take that same approach when you don't know what you're looking for, when you don't know how it manifests. And so, like Terrance said, having another man who knows how men talk, how men think, and being able to size them up is something that can increase that lead time. Because if you don't have the experience, bringing in somebody you trust who has that experience, kind of like hiring a contractor for a specialty that you don't have on your team at work, or hiring a
Hmm.
new person to do that job rather than us trying to take it on, decreases that lead time. But another part about it is about what you can do personally, other than having somebody else help you, is putting somebody in a situation where them acting the way they want to act or that they truly are would put them in a better position, but the right thing to do is make the sacrifice. It's very difficult for people to make those large sacrifices for strangers. Because just like you don't have a real reason to get married to somebody on the first day you meet them, it's difficult for people to make small sacrifices that move them farther away from their nefarious goals for somebody they just met, when it's easier to find somebody else who plays with them a lot easier.
Agreed.
Interesting.
The other
Thank
thing,
you.
agreed. Only other thing I would add is, do you have any happily married friends that can help?
Ooh, male or female?
Female.
My sister, but there is some dynamic of triangulation that previously occurred. So, though she's a good sounding board, I still think there is some emotional and spiritual baggage about me being the scapegoat and her being the golden child. But I can seek them out. So it sounds like what you're saying is, since the answer is no, I should seek them out, is what I'm picking up.
Yes. So in general, and it's very clear, is married people hang out with other married people, and married people usually have a camaraderie with other people that they are trying to help find someone. I always say married because in men's circles, you don't usually, especially high level men's circles, you don't hear girlfriend a lot. It just doesn't happen. Like, when
Mhm.
you're driving in like any decent suburb, you don't usually see like a bunch of guys living in nice houses by themselves. They usually have a wife. So when we're talking about relationships, we often need to profile ourselves. And what I mean by that is look at your life, whether in not necessarily your income or education, because I'm just going to be frank in general that most men don't care about that. It's your lifestyle. So, what kind of lifestyle do you live? What type of lifestyle would you like to live with another person? And where are you likely to find that? So, for instance, me and Ryan do not hang out with men who do not have a proven track record of paying for professional services. That's one of the easiest way to know if you're dealing with a high level person. High level people do not cheap out when it comes to professional services. So what I mean by that is this person is likely paying for a personal trainer, or they have a history of doing something like that. They might have nutritionists, they have a career coach, they're paying for knowledge. They're not just trying to get free stuff all the time.
Hmm.
And I'm serious, that is one of the most likely ways to notice whether somebody is serious about their development is, are they paying and putting effort into getting to where they say they're going to be? Like, hey Ryan, I don't know any guy personally outside of some blue collar fields where they didn't have to cough up a decent amount of money to get the knowledge they needed to get to where they needed in life. You have to. The guy that runs around trying to get everything for free, he usually has very little to show for it. So, um, the other thing is, are you also looking at online dating platforms?
No, I previously have, but I have been told in person when I was, is that the way I physically look and my style not is not my actual personality. And I think it has to be a woman, being the fact that I'm a woman of color and I present a certain way, just my physical characteristics. And I've been told this, like, oh, I didn't realize that you'd be so much this or that. And so I created a large distrust of online because I felt like the way I physically look in photographs is very different than my demeanor. A lot of people have said this, not even just dating partners, but friends. They said, wow, when I saw a photo of you, the minute you open your mouth, I realized you're a different person than what I thought. And so my fear and my experience with online dating has been, it's because of that gap, I am getting matches that are expecting one thing and get something else. And that's a problem for both of us, you know?
Well, not necessarily just online dating. One of the questions I'm asking is, are you part of like professional groups? And I mean outside of, and the reason I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this call is because this can likely help a number of other individuals. But I mean professional outside of your career. So like professional running groups, stuff like Toastmasters.
Yes, I have very, very much part of that. I recently joined in my local city, Future Business Leaders. I'm part of many AI entrepreneur groups. I work in tech, so I'm looking to meet other like-minded people who are ambitious and have careers. I'm very much like you and Ryan, which is why I found this call. I invest very heavily in personal development. So I'm also part of many like personal development, self-growth, mindfulness, healing groups, meetups. Um, and so it feels a little disheartening because I am trying to place myself in areas where there is an alignment with my interests and other groups, and I do meet many like-minded folks, but somehow the finding a romantic partner just doesn't seem to manifest from those efforts. And I'm trying to figure out what is going to move the needle, or maybe it's just a matter of how my expectations of the time is, but I've been at this dating game for many years.
Yeah.
I sound young is what people tell me, but I've been dating for quite some time now and have invested heavily in my professional growth and networking groups. Um, and it just hasn't panned out. So I'm like, is it something else? You know?
So the reason I was asking is actually
Mhm.
probably might be the opposite of what you thought is, in general, men don't usually try to date slash marry people that are just like them. So like when I was single,
Mm.
even though I'm a professional, I would never have for a minute been interested in somebody that graduated law school like me. Is a prerequisite of me being interested in them. So a lot of times what happens with professional women is they men are reading them like another professional instead of somebody I should be trying to date. So when you're talking about those type of groups, have you ever taken part in like Cars and Coffee or something?
It's where you meet up and you look at cars and you drink coffee.
Cars and Coffee, no, it's a huge networking world.
Oh.
So it's not just about cars. It's probably the quickest way men under the age of 40 do networking. It's Cars and
Okay.
Coffee or some type of group like that.
Mhm.
I'm guessing you've never taken part.
No.
Okay. So, and the thing is, if we did like a conference call, there'd probably be like 30 other events that you just didn't know about. So do you know about like Manette?
No.
Okay. So Manette is a way that like high level entrepreneurs and other professionals get in contact with each others and but this is more of a more laid back thing. So the reason I'm saying this is if you're not part of my Patreon, I would join the Patreon. The Patreon's free. But a lot of times what I find is like in the circles that me and Ryan are in, and they're not like exclusive circles, you just have to know about them. There's a huge difference between the women that know about them and the ones that don't. And the women that know about them don't usually tell everybody else about these places. But these are the places that your average, like, and when I say professional, I don't mean necessarily a guy that has 5 degrees. I'm talking about a guy who's taking his life seriously and he wants to be around other men that are men of their word. More and more, and me and Ryan are writing this book right now. More and more guys that are taking their life seriously, especially post COVID, you do not find them looking for significant others as well as high level friendships in normal places anymore. You don't find them. You find the best trying to hang out with the best. That glue person, maybe there used to be, in the olden days, you would see a movie and there'll be like 5 friends from childhood and they're growing old and doing all this other stuff. That's dying out. What's happening is the glue guy, the guy that often was the guy that keeps that friendship together, he's now making friends with other guys that are high level guys. And they're forming unbelievable friendships, not just for their psychological development, but often their financial development and all these things. And a lot of times, especially if a woman is not taught about how this world works and how it's changed over the last 5 to 10 years, you're still trying to date pre 2015. And you're going to notice over and over again, the high quality guys just aren't there. And like every time, and if you've seen the people that have seen this talk over and over again, Andrea, I know you've seen it. There's certain men that would come on this call, they would describe exactly what I'm saying, and then you no longer see them here. And that's what happens. So guys are looking for a tribe. They're always looking for a tribe of people to be around. And more, the high quality men are just hanging out with other high quality men. So
So I'm confused. Just to click down, are you saying that I should enter into these high quality men circles, but then because then you also said in the same vein, well, they may not be looking for another female version of themselves, you
so
know?
so what they're
Yeah.
looking for is somebody that complements the lifestyle they want. They're
Mhm.
not looking for a professional. Like like what often happens in the world is somebody's like, "Hey, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, come date me." And guys are like, "I don't care. What are you talking about?" There if you get clear about the type of life you want to live, and if people find that lifestyle attractive and it's clear you've done the work, it's a heck of a lot easier to attract someone.
Okay.
It's literally getting clear about what you want from life. And you become a beacon at that point. It's like, okay, let's say I want to live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I would love to, let's say I want to send $10,000 a year to orphanages. I want to do this, 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 this. I'm saying get clear about your life because as you get clear about your life and that becomes kind of your mantra of explaining yourself when you're talking to people, The person that is interested in that life will become interested in you. But you got to be in the right places for that to happen. You have to be in places where people are relaxed and they're talking and they're communicating. So, like in Michigan, there's a running club I'm part of. There's a lot of people that found their wives and people found their husbands in that running group, but it's fairly exclusive. They don't just invite anybody. But if you start going and it doesn't have to be cars and coffee, but whatever your hobbies are, where are people having fun in that hobby? Like Ryan is in archery. I know Ryan, you've met a lot of great people in the archery community. You know,
Yep.
it's just you have to figure out what do you love? What do you love and spend a lot more time with what do you love? I've found people that, were really they love houses. Not to necessarily buy house, but they love to look at houses. And they have open houses and all kind of things is we have to be interested in the life we want to live and then have the awareness to look around to the people around us that have that. So, like all the events I'm talking about, it's maybe 60% men, but there's always like 40% women there too. And this is one of the big things that have happened as women have become more and more in men's circles. Men marry who's around them. Like, when me, Ryan, and our other friends years ago decided to get married, we were all married within what, like a year and a half? It was like seven of us. We all got married within a year and a half of each other. Because and who did we marry? We married the people around us. So I know relationships sound very complicated, but when you really take the time to like narrow out your life and look at the places that you're looking for people at, but also take the time to learn about the type of person you want, it becomes so clear why we're single and how to make the changes. But for more information on this, go to our Patreon because I think me and Ryan, I think we're going to do a workshop about this. I think we've got enough people we can do a workshop about this. Something else is pickleball. I don't play pickleball, but oh my gosh, every time I turn around, so many guys talk about pickleball. And several people off this site actually found their boyfriends playing pickleball. So it's just we got to go out there and have fun with life. As we have fun
I
with life, we notice more people having fun with life. But what were you
I
saying?
hear you. Yeah, no, I hear you. And to my defense, I where I live, I've been playing pickleball for years, and I do meet a lot of men, but none of them yet have translated into a relationship. Not to say it couldn't, but um, yes, same thing with the running clubs and everything. So, but I hear you. Um, I think it's also difficult because sometimes my personal interests that I enjoy are traditionally female-centered things like yoga, ballet, and I was like, well. Dance, a lot of men that I see in those circles after a few years are not, or they're not, they're gay. I'll be honest. And it's not, a match inherently for someone like me that doesn't swing in that direction. And so, and I hear you. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what group or lifestyle group is going to be the unlock? Because I feel like I have tried to do the groups and I know we have to wrap, but in all fairness, I've tried to do those things and I just got to keep going. But
Yeah.
sometimes you know what I'm trying to say? So,
Yeah, I do. I would also, if you now this is the question, if you keep coming across good guys or guys that you seem to think are good and they're out there and they're getting married and they're doing whatever,
yeah,
it, they might be seeing something in you that they're unsure of. Especially in 2025 and 2026, especially with how publicized divorces are, with this whole men against women, women against men
yeah,
thing. If there's
right.
any apprehension there, guys will usually run away. So that's why it's also important to get real feedback on how am I coming across to somebody. And if there's any like misalignment there, guys that have their stuff together, they don't deal in confusion. If anyone's giving them, even if it's not their fault, a confusing message, they're probably going to like not pursue a relationship. But this goes into, were you ever taught how to get a husband? Like my wife, her dad taught her about men. So when I met her, she knew about men. And this is like an honest assessment. If you were never taught this, then you are likely going to have to be taught, or you're going to have to you're going to have to watch a lot of male content to understand men. Like your David Goggins stuff, your Jocko Willink. People hire me because I've already done all that stuff, and then we move quicker. But if you haven't been, and this is an honest assessment, if you've never been taught any of this stuff, how are you going to be successful?
Fair point. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your honesty.
Thanks.